start off with introducing you. Tell us your story. Who are you? Where you from? What's all behind Larry that got you all the way up until where you are at now?
Wow, man. So I'll make this quick. I'm a dad of 4 boys. I have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 4-year-old, 2-year-old. I just found one of them in the cabinet, which was kind of funny. The 4-year-old, we couldn't find him anywhere. He was all curled up in a cabinet in the kitchen, which is kind of funny. So we have a very busy house. I've been married to the same woman. It'll be 15 years in a month here. So, definitely enjoying my wife, marriage. I mean, we've got a really good relationship. We really like it. We really love each other a lot. My story, I grew up without going into too much detail, because I don't want to meander on for too long. I want to get to your questions and make this as impactful for you and your audience as possible. But I grew up in a fatherless environment for half my childhood. And then the other half, I grew up with a pretty toxic environment when it came to fatherhood. So my mom was married 3 times. She dated men in between each marriage. And all of them just sort of had like a bit of toxicity or addiction issues that came along with it. So whether it was alcohol or drugs or that kind of thing. And most of them were not too nice either, pretty mentally abusive, physically abusive, all that good stuff. So, half my childhood was spent without one. The other half was spent with that type of role model. And it wasn't really pleasant. So I always said to myself, I was like, I am not going to do this when I'm a father myself. And, I was a dad for about 6 years. At the time I had just 2 boys, 6 and 4. And I wasn't beating them and I wasn't being abusive and I wasn't that guy, but I wasn't there. And I just wasn't present. I wasn't intentional. I wasn't purposeful. And I kind of did the whole dad thing from like an arm's length, and I just hit a real low point with it because I was my own worst critic, like a lot of other men were. And I just decided at a low point, I was like, I got to do something different. And I've been in sales all my life, and there's tons of courses out there and tons of books to read, on how to be a better salesperson, how to interact with people better, social dynamics and sales processes and all. Like, it's endless, right? And that comes with any industry. If you want to go in IT, you can have all the training that you want. If you want to go in the health industry, you can have all kinds of training. But when you become a father, it's almost like you're sent home with this kid and they're like, hey, best of luck, hope it works out. So not to say that there aren't parenting books out there, but there are. But I just wanted something different. I wanted to be more than just a parent. I was like, I can't be a good parent unless I'm the best me. Like it's impossible for me to be a good parent, a good father, unless I am the best me I can be. So I created a Facebook page in 2012. And I just said to, I just was like, I'm just going to go out and learn something every day. I'm just going to learn something new every day. And I just surrendered my ego. And all of us, by the way, if you're a man listening to this or a woman, all of us have egos to some degree. A lot of people hear the word ego, they think of this giant overconfident person who puts everybody else down. Now, ego, it can show up, in several different forms. Ego can even show up as I can't ask for help. I can't, because that makes me look weak. That's our ego talking. I was the same way, and most men are the same way. Don't want to ask for help. So I just surrendered that ego, and I was like, I'm going to be a student of this. I'm going to be a student of fatherhood, and just maybe it'll inspire somebody else. And if I'm doing it publicly, that will keep me accountable to keep doing it. So I noticed that the page got some traction. And then in 2013, a year later, I started a blog, and I really didn't enjoy writing too much, even though I'm a published author, but I didn't enjoy writing a whole lot. So I was like, I really like speaking. I really like, it's sort of, that's my comfort zone. So I started a podcast in 2015. At the time, it was the Good Dad Project podcast. And that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. Podcast has grown to over 180 countries. It's the #1 dad podcast on iTunes. I mean, I say that very humbly because I'm like, who in God's name would follow like a total moron like me who's screwing up every day as a father? But that's what the podcast has really become. I always say that I'm a student, and my podcast is my learning, and I get to speak to people who are a heck of a lot smarter than me every single week. And the audience just gets to learn right along with me, which is kind of fun. And then in 2016, we started what's called the Dad Edge Masterminds, which we get like-minded men together in groups of 10, and we help men become better fathers, better husbands, better for ourselves, better providers, better with our health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, but doing work that makes us come alive, not just the grind of 9 to 5 where we hate what we do. So I did that in 2016. Then 2017, developed a community called the Dad Edge Alliance, which is now it's our huge mastermind community. We have about 250 men who are a part of it, and it is just growing, and the men in there are thriving, and everyone is becoming more empowered because of the tribe and the men that we surround ourselves with. And it's been an unbelievable journey. And it's definitely helped me be a better father to my kids. Cause at this point, to be honest with you, I would probably be divorced. I'd probably be an alcoholic. I'd probably just be a complete and total disaster if it wasn't for this mission and this community. And I say that not because of me, but because of the men I've been able to meet through the podcast, through the community, the guests that we've had on the show. It's like, when you can have conversations with these people and then continue that relationship, past the podcast interview, it just becomes a community that just thrives.